Chapter 6. Teacher, Older Sister, and Lover. The next morning, Sena woke up faster than usual. It wasn't because today was the day he was getting his bio-enhancement, it was because today was the day he finally got to be with Kariko. He woke up and split ways with his roommates, and went to Kariko's classroom that overlooked the PE field.
"Good morning," he said.
As expected, Kariko was in the corridor waiting for him. "Good morning, Sena. How about we go look at the ocean for a while?" Sena nodded in agreement. The Ceto scouts monitored Sena and Kariko on their way to their destinations. As the two walked, the monitoring probes and surveillance cameras all malfunctioned, and they lost track of him. "Wow!" Sena exclaimed as he ran up to the railing on the hill overlooking the sea. He watched the beautiful blue waters and the waves below him with amazement. "It's beautiful. When I was on Earth, me, and Kai used to go to the sea all the time," said Kariko. "Yeah, and I got stung by jellyfish, I drowned, I cut my legs with broken glass," Sena said. He backed up from the wood railing. It seemed sturdy, but he wanted to make sure. Kariko smiled at Sena, and then her face got very serious. "Sena-chan." "Yes. You know the training is hard, but still you want to become a GP officer, don't you?" "Well, I guess the training is pretty serious, but I'll be getting my bio-enhancement soon." "You do know that if you receive the GP's bio-enhancement, you can no longer live on the Earth like you did before." Huh. Sena was a bit surprised. It changes the human body's composition fundamentally. Even the Earth's equipment could instantly tell. You'd never be able to see a doctor again without them realizing you're not a normal human being. Wow. I see. For Sena, the hospital was as familiar a place for him as his home and school. To not be able to see a doctor was as good as not being able to return to the Earth. You will never be able to go home to live with your pure Earthling family. That house will become a different world altogether for you. The fact that Sena entered the GP would mean that he was no longer a pure Earthling. Oh yeah, it's sad I have to part with my family, but Sena thought about how things had been since he had left Earth. Sena had always felt awkward about being such a bother to his family members. He thought about it all throughout his childhood. He had come to the conclusion that when he grew up, he wanted to live away from his family. One of the extreme ideas he often had was to go live self-sufficiently isolated and alone in a mountain area somewhere. If he hadn't met Kariko then, he probably would have just committed suicide. His recent independence from his family was abrupt, but it was not surprising. And for Sena, to go home now was to throw away his dreams. His hope for the future was more important to him than the sorrow of parting with his family. Also, returning to the Earth meant that his ability to see Kariko would disappear. "I'm sorry to have to be the one to tell you these things. Of course, you can return to your original body even if you do bioenhancement. You can return to the Earth, and if you do so, you can live normally. I am only talking about right now." "Oh! Sorry, I got a bit carried away. It's just that when I heard that you had gone into space, I chased after you as fast as I could only to find a huge number of pirate ships were captured by Lady Ceto. It sent a shiver down my spine, but I just told myself, well, it all worked out in the end, and he was saved. And then that night when you escaped from the dorm, that stuff happened." "Oh, yeah. I was surprised that made it into the news. Most of that incident was caused by people who were trying to come after you, Sena. After me. More than half were inside players like Irma, but a lot of truly dangerous offenders were also there." Sena remembered the news from the day after. As he had expected, his bad luck had been a bother to many others. Arisama and Mikami-sama were only happy because they captured so many Class A and Class B criminals and wet workers. If that's the case, what's the problem? If you stay here, the chances of you being in danger like that only increase. You could die. And with your abilities, they are going to put you into those situations deliberately. Kariko pleaded. But for Sena, the word danger was unrealistic. Both a group of space pirates and a small falling pebble could kill Sena at any moment. "Do you still want to become a GP officer? Do you still want to stay here? You can still return now. Return to Earth. Sena-chan, please." Kariko's words were cruel to Sena because they completely ignored his feelings. Sena was about to become an adult. And he wanted to be out in the world, not protected from it, and Kariko's words were saying that he shouldn't even have that opportunity. Because of that, Sana wasn't able to consider his feeling towards being near Kariko as reason to stay at the moment he made this decision. Sorry, Kariko-san. I still want to be in the GP. Sana looked away from Kariko because he was hesitant to look at her as he said this. Why? She said with sad, clinging eyes. It seems like my parents are pleased, and I also have a chance to do something with my life. Sana was puzzled by the facial expression Kariko was making. Don't be silly, Sana. He turned with a serious look towards Kariko. I want to stay in outer space. If I miss this, I'll probably never get an opportunity like this again. I want to go to many places on a spaceship and see many things. But it's dangerous, you could die. I don't want to go back to Earth. Kariko's words were interrupted by Sana's strong tone. On the Earth, my bad luck doesn't change. If it's the same, I want to stay in space. What are you talking about? In addition, for the first time in my life, my bad luck is an asset. I made a promise to stay when I first met Sito, and I want to keep my promise. Kariko remained astonished and froze and became immovable. Sana's words caused Kariko to shut down for a moment. The words he had just said echoed in her head over and over. Damn her. She clenched her fist so hard her fist could have started bleeding at any moment. She felt intense anger towards Sito. No, it was better to say hatred. Now Sito, she had a sense of intimidation about her, a strong atmosphere that could frighten even Kariko. It was like experiencing murder and a nuclear explosion at once, and she could feel all of that aimed right at her in that moment. It was a feeling so intense for Kariko so that felt like it could kill her until finally she accepted that she would have to give up on her struggle to keep Sana out of space. You are still young. She remembered the words of her mother Tsukiko. Tsukiko knew the truth. Sito and Eri also noticed. Yes, she had run away from Sana. Unable to endure dealing with Sana's bad luck anymore, Kariko took off into outer space. I found a good reason and ran away from Sana. Of course, no one could blame her for it. It was Kariko who was definitely worried about Sana the most. I'll take care of Sana so you won't have to worry. You should think about your own happiness. Yes, that's what Tsukiko had said. As she stood embarrassed over how miserably she had behaved towards Sana, she was interrupted by a call notification coming from her bracelet. It was a main. Ahaha. Kariko, I heard that they put stupid bastard Sirio on cleaning duty with Mitoto-sama. Oh yeah, and Eri wants you to come to the chairperson's office. So hurry up. Normally Kariko would have been annoyed by this, but she was glad for the insensitive interruption. At the same time, Sana was contacted by Rajo. Sana, we have our schedule for today now. We need to go to the 89th medical facility. I'll be there soon. Thank you, Sana said. He was relieved to have an escape for the awkward atmosphere. I'm sorry. I got to, go. Kariko gazed at the ocean silently behind him. There wasn't a single word that Kariko had left to say, so she stood frozen. The birdcage Kariko had set up for Sana had broken, and the bird had flown away. Sana began walking off, but he froze on the spot and turned back around. Kariko-san. What? How do I get to the 89th medical facility? Sana looked up at Kariko with a lost face. I'm sorry, I don't really know where we are. The little bird who fled from her birdcage still didn't know how to fly yet, and so Kariko realized she had found a new path. Don't worry, I'll take you there. If you need to know where any place is, just ask me, she said as she took Sana's hand and began walking. Let's go. The ball was still in her court. On Mikagami's bridge, the operators were watching with Sito, and a few were crying into handkerchiefs. It had a happy ending after all. Minaho looked towards Sito as if relieved. Sito was leaning deeply into her sofa throne and seemed to be thinking about something. Is there anything to worry about? Well, for the time being, let's just see what happens and go from there. I feel a bit sorry for Tsukiko. Well, it's not like she knows yet. Oh, that's right. I have to report this to Tsukiko-chan, said Minaho. But Sito stood up from her seat and went to the transfer pad that led to her private room to do it herself. Haha, it's okay, let me. I always enjoy playing the role of the bearer of bad news, Sito said. Minaho sighed deeply. Hakuren, Karen, Jayakiran, Swearan. Don't be lazy, hurry up and follow Sana. Minaho shouted at Hakuren's crew who were immersed in crying. In the 14,000th male toilet hall of the GP Academy, Sirio and Mitoto cleaned toilets. It was his punishment for working to keep Sena from receiving bioenhancement. Oh, Sena, in front of the 89th medical facility, Irma stood wearing a white suit and waving at Sena. Ms. Kariko, I hope you don't mind, but I need to borrow Sena for a while, Irma said, and she took Sena by the arm and took him inside. When she was inside, she sat Sena down and gave him a crash course on bioenhancement. What is bioenhancement? Irma said, standing in front of a diagram of a body on the wall and pointing a pointer at it. Bioenhancement is a process that reconstructs your body using nanomachines. It increases your physical strength, exercise capacity, endurance, and resilience. It also dramatically improves and extends the physical life of the person who undergoes it by increasing the number of regenerations of the cells. What if the bioenhancement fails? Will I die? Ahaha, it'll be okay. I've never heard of anyone failing bioenhancement these days. But when I tried on the uniforms, Sena's anxiety over his bad luck haunted him. I understand. If anything happens, I will take responsibility and I will take care of you, Irma said, rubbing against him like she did when she met him. Is there anything more reassuring you can do? Sena asked. Don't worry. There won't be any problems. When we took your personal data, we ran simulations of the process on your personal data, and everything about your probability vector has been taken into consideration and has been corrected for, so don't worry. Okay, I understand. Good. Well then, before we start, I have to give you a medical examination. Irma sat down by Sena and began to take off his clothes. Kariko and Amain reported to Eri. She informed them of Sirio's punishment and asked them if they wanted to be in charge of Sena's body enhancement now that Sirio was unassigned from the role. Kariko declined. She was embarrassed. The process involved handling Sena naked. Amain happily volunteered. The two fought over it. Eri offered to do it. They both shot her down and decided to both do it. They got on the transfer gate and transported to the room Sena was waiting in. Unfortunately, they walked in on Irma trying to take off Sena's pants. What are you doing, Irma? Kariko said like a mother tiger seeing a fox go after its baby. I'm just doing his health checkup, she said, embarrassed. Sirio was cleaning toilets with Mitoto when he heard an announcement for Sena to go receive bioenhancement from Amain, Irma, and Kariko. He had a delusional daydream about Sena showing off his bioenhanced naked body to Amain, causing Amain to have sex with Sena. In a fit of delusional panic, he tried to run off to find Sena, but Mitoto grabbed him by the collar and made sure he stayed to clean. Sena wondered what Amain was doing at the academy. She was a detective after all. When he asked, she got a mad look on her face. You want to know? I'm here because of you. I got demoted. Because of me? Yeah. Because you were at Tenchi's house, I thought clearly you must have been one of Tenchi's relatives or something, but you weren't. You were just some ordinary earthling. And so now they're forcing me to be a teacher. Oh! I was nearly promoted to a first-class detective before I met you. Ugh. Amain began shaking Sena violently while choking him. He blacked out for a bit. That sure was careless of Amain, wasn't it? Irma said. Yes, it was. Kariko agreed. Whatever, let's just get this bioenhancement over with so we can get to the fun part. Amain said. Well then, let's take off your clothes. Amain started unbuttoning Sena's shirt. What are you doing? Kariko said with a flushed face as she got in between Sena and Amain. We can't proceed with the bioenhancement unless he gets naked. And we can't do the health exam before that unless he gets naked. The three argued over who got to strip him as Sena watched. Eventually, he just asked them to do it himself. David, Elroy, and Fingu asked Kenneth and Rajo if they had heard that Amain, Irma, and Kariko were assigned to perform Sena's bioenhancement. They had. Sena got in a cylindrical container in a room and it filled up with gel, and soon he was sedated and the bioenhancement began. In the bathrooms of the academy, Sirio was cleaning incredibly fast. He now knew that he couldn't escape from Mitoto, so instead he concluded that the best way to get away from her was to finish cleaning quickly. Just you wait, Sena Yamada. Ha 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 ha.